Worlds is always a hella funny time of year in terms of both gameplay and drafts, and this is no exception because today we get a bit of a treat exploring my favorite strong side jungle team, GAM Esports, and my boy Levi. And this is probably one of the only teams in the entire world that actually takes advantage of giving draft resources to jungle. Like from a draft perspective, almost every team in the world, like jungle is like a slave role. Shut up, pick your J4, bro. Put the fries in the bag. Just pass to me. It's like junglers don't really have many rights in terms of a draft perspective, and I think GAM is a team that not only understands the power of giving a player like Levi actually the resources to actually get good picks, but also are actually really open and creative with deploying and making use of the jungle slot, right? I don't want to see like Levi getting a B4, B5, R4, R4, R5 just to, pick something like Lee Sin, right? Like maybe there's a time and place, but, the whole point of having jungle like that is to get these unique picks. And this is a perfect game to basically encapsulate the vibe that GAM gets, or to absolutely kind of shank SoftBank here in terms of a draft perspective. There is a little bit of calibration still with both teams being able to understand what the meta is, but I'm not too pressed about that. I think both teams were decently on the mark in terms of what I would expect from a decent Worlds draft meta. The first one is the Aurora Stonks that are pretty much going up a fair bit, I would say. This is not because I would say Aurora is exceptional or Z tier in her roles. It is because she has more than one role. And she has a relatively flexible team fight and like sort of dynamic in terms of how they want to play the game. Her only limiting factor is one, her semi-low sort of survivability, and two, being her range. Right? She's more of like a short range. This is why it incentivizes the Ziggs R1 from SoftBank. My guess is that they also probably think it's just good. It is quite possible. Because a lot of teams are actually banning it. I think Ziggs is a good champion with the right conditions. So the idea is that you're more of a poke champ, and you're definitely something that, if you are enabled by, you're going to win by poke and there's nothing to stop your poke, then Ziggs is great, right? They're going to lock in. Let's say, for example, there's a chain where they leave Jinx open. They go Jinx Poppy. They go Jinx, like, whatever champion, Nautilus or Rel or something like that. Then you could probably go for a Ziggs angle. You match utility champion, and then you can probably play longer games like that. This is not one of those games. SoftBank definitely just leave themselves wide open, and it could be because they haven't fully fleshed out all of the potential chains from opening up certain things in draft. Like, while Ziggs is a great champion, while J4 is a great champion in certain scenarios, I would say this is not one of those scenarios because of the fact that they leave themselves open to such a strong counter pick in the form of the Jhin. Plus, they left Poppy open in terms of and as an answer to the J4. I'm actually very surprised they don't take the Poppy themselves with the Ziggs, because if you're SoftBank, you want to play backwards, right? And Poppy's basically best champion at doing so in this current meta, and she can do it in 3 roles. You basically reveal nothing about your you basically leave yourself no openings in terms of your composition. And there are other things that teams could play as well in terms of the slot. I still am not a fan of the Rumble. In my opinion, I don't really think it's been working much like at all this event, and I won't be surprised if it gets dropped. So overall, I would say from drafting fundamentals perspective, it's like all right. GAM has basically done nothing wrong, and let's put it that way. It's not like the cash out comes in soon. Let's not worry too much about that. There's a basically automatic SoftBank 4th pick support. Rel, not too surprising here. It doesn't get basically cocked by its own Poppy. Like, I really think picking Poppy on 2 here would make SoftBank's comp that much better, that much more playable. And now GAM get the cash out. They go for the Shiv because why not, right? Levi's like, it's good here. This champ is not what it used to be, right? Well, a couple patches ago, this thing was, this thing was the shit. But like a couple patches ago, being able to just automatic full clear, don't worry too much. And this is a great example of a team that creates a unique solution to a compositional problem that no other role would have been able to easily provide at this point. Because the Shyvana build that is good right now is actually one that thrives off the back of poke and being able to get resources and outpace and thrive in a lower paced environment. And lo and behold, they give the SoftBank is like, yeah, I'm down for that. We're going nice and slow here with the Ziggs, right? So Levi's like, all right, guys, see you later for 6 camps. I'm gonna see you guys in 20, and then we'll just win the game. Pretty much how it goes, right? Because SoftBank themselves have set up this Shyvana pick for Levi to kind of just go for. And forget about the fact that they pick like almost a full dash team into Poppy here. I think this is going to be my peeve of the event. And both mid laners here, it's basically forced, not because they're good, but because the comp requires it. So just for some mild context, when you need the Shyvana needs a lot of hand holding. So it basically necessitates a really high prio champion like the Tristana just to make sure it can do its job safely. And, it's not that jungle is facilitating for the lanes are facilitating for jungle in this case. So that's a great example of this first game. Really, really good from GAM. Second one, SoftBank are allergic to the Shiv. They don't want to deal with it. All good, in the moment, you probably, nerves are high. You probably wouldn't think about, what to think. Oh, maybe the Shiv wasn't the problem, and it was just us being able to be really exposed in draft, which is fine. It's a band-aid solution to, a little scratch, and it is what it is I guess the way I would say it. It's not a big deal to clear it out of the way, get rid of one ban. They swap sides. Aurora B1 again, potentially. No, sorry, my bad. It was the Ashe B1 and then the GAM trade for the Aurora R1 because it was let through. It does make sense why the Ashe is really highly prioritized because of her matchup spread and being able to work with any composition. I did say this a really long time ago when the champion was a lot stronger and the champ's not nearly as strong anymore. But the fact still remains that she has extremely strong matchup spread into pretty much every champ, and she's really flexible. And you can leverage the support pick in order to make this a lot stronger. And I like the adaptation here with the Poppy. They took it this time. They have opened up the gates for flexibility. I'm not a fan of the Rumble though. It's chill. It could just be little variance in how they perceive draft. I actually do think Kennen will be the Rumble of this event, if that makes sense. Big AoE top laner magic damage type. Obviously they function very differently in terms of how they like to play the game, because Rumble's a lane dominant champion and Kennen can dominate certain lanes, but in a very different way. He's more he can more thrive off of he's down to chill if the situation calls for it. In terms of certain lane swap scenarios though, he'd probably do a little bit worse, but that's not too pressing, I would say. Where we get the nice cash out again from GAM is giving jungle to R5. There is if you ask your team to go jungle R5, you're actually gonna get banned. This requires a special type of Vietnamese magic that GAM Esports are basically enabling here. Lee Sin LeBlanc comes through from SoftBank. I'm actually, I actually think that's not bad, and in terms of the context of the comp, right? I also think it's a combo that in this meta could work no matter the scenario, as long as your team is good enough. It's a confidence type pick where, if you think you're better, you can just try your best to do so. These are also two champs that are facilitated because they picked Poppy earlier. Keep that in mind. I think we're in a very unique space with this Poppy champ specifically, because when you pick Poppy, it also enables you, it clears the way to pick your forward picks, because all the forward picks in the meta right now are all dash based. Essentially, the only true counter are things like the Yone, which is actually pretty smart from GAM, because Yone has true engage with some with his ultimate and such, and his E2 being able to get back out easily. The only main issues with picking Poppy early is that you are weak to things like the Ziggs. That's why they actually snagged it on B2, B3, by the way. And or you can get stat checked. Let's say you pick a front to back comp, but then they just pick a stronger front to back comp, and your front to back comp doesn't have much agency about it, right? Another fix is to also just ban Poppy, and then the game gets a little more normal. So, like in this case, for example, it's good that SoftBank get the Poppy, but then they kind of like go forward. I don't. You know what I mean. Like the expense of being able to enable your forward picks is that like your comp doesn't make as much sense directionally. With GAM, it's like pretty clear and pretty easy to execute, right? It's we just meatball. We see target, we kill target, no problem. It's very very sensible. SoftBank, it's like I guess we play for pick. Our champs don't really do anything late game. We're just gonna get stat checked by out of the AOE later. You know what I'm saying? Like it doesn't look like it has enough of oomph in team fighting, even though it's like a quote unquote team fight comp with like the champions that they play. So, by locking a commit to combo by like Lee Sin LeBlanc, you're really tying yourself down to the need to really get ahead. And GAM somehow take more risks, but less risks at the same time, if that makes sense. And this is just because of their strong drafting fundamentals and then cashing out. So that is a lesson from today's drafting. I thought it's pretty interesting. I think GAM is probably going to be one of the more unique drafters in this event. So I think it's good to extract the style. If you're one of the other teams, you keep in mind that they're like more of a jungle-oriented team, of course, and it's really exciting to watch. So you should ban a lot of the champions that facilitate that, allow Levi to get really more creative picks, and prevent that sort of environment. I think it's very abusable, but it's very interesting nonetheless. So that's a lesson from today's draft video. Hope you guys liked it. I'll catch you in the next one.